#live. Now, a lot of people watch our replays. If you're watching our replays, just type in #replay just so I know that you're watching.
Property guru George Markowski from Positive Property Solution joins us now. George, good morning to you.
How are you, George?
You've got to hang out with guys like George who know the numbers. Get the real numbers, the facts. Because I can talk to you about cash flow and all those things. George is better at that than me. The thing I'm ecstatic about George, he is a hardcore teacher. He really wants you to learn.
Okay, guys, we've got 10 seconds left. Can't wait to show you a great, amazing session tonight. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello. Hey guys.
Welcome.
Welcome to tonight's session. Christina Markowski is back. I'm back. I'm out of retirement. I've been pulled out of retirement early by Mr. George Markowski himself. No, I was never in retirement.
Thanks for coming along, Christina. Really appreciate it. Now, what I'd like to do, guys, is I'm going to post a little link in the chat. And this link will allow you to comment with your name.
Oh, cool. Excellent. We love talking to you guys.
What I'd like to know if people in the Australian property investors can hear us and see us. If you're in there,
let's get all that tech stuff sorted out.
Okay. So if you're in there, guys, please type in Australian property investors so I know that you're there. I just want to make sure we're streaming to Australian properties. So I'm not sure if we are. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Tonight, we've got a session. We're going to be talking about money.
And say hello. Let us know how you are. How's your week going? What's been happening?
Yes, exactly. What's been happening? And hello. So we're going to be talking about money.
Oh, money. Money.
They've made songs about it. They've made movies about it.
They based a character on SpongeBob SquarePants who loves money, Mr. Krabs, and he goes around going, money.
Then you've got Mr. Burns, who's got all the money. So money is one of those things in a capitalist society that's pretty important. And we're going
to learn how to win the money game tonight.
That's right. And the one thing I need to explain to people, I'm going to talk about the banks and what the banks do with your money. Because do you ever wonder, what are the banks doing?
Absolutely.
What are the banks doing with my money?
And realistically, when I think of money game, I think of things like Monopoly and cash flow, the game that Robert Kiyosaki made with his wife, Kim Kiyosaki, on learning how money works. It can very much start as a kid playing board games.
Absolutely. And who plays cash flow or Monopoly with their kids? I'd love to know. Type in the chat if you do. Because I
played Monopoly so much as a kid. Like, it was literally my favorite game. The only thing that was a little bit frustrating was it usually went for over 5 hours because everyone playing was so good with their money, including me, obviously. Like, start them young with learning how to save and how to invest. And it's all about buying properties.
Hey, look at this.
This is Brandon. Hey, guys, I just joined your program last week with my partner. Well, welcome to the tribe of like-minded investors.
Welcome.
Baden, great to have you here.
So the funny thing is, in Monopoly, right, it's a fun game. And when I first played Monopoly, I loved it. I thought, wow. And my friends told me you can actually play it in real life. And I was like 7 at the time. And I just thought, this is so much fun.
You know what I find fascinating, George? You and I both made our own Monopoly boards as kids.
Oh, you did too, did you?
I did. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
My parents said, oh, we haven't got the money. So I decided to make my own board. And I didn't remember the whole board, so it's pretty terrible.
Well, I was fortunate. My parents actually did have the real game. They had a kids version too. So we had 2 Monopoly games. But I also, I loved it so much, I ended up making my own as well for like a school assignment.
Fantastic. And I made my own Monopoly board and played that and loved it. Now, one thing Monopoly is really good at, and this sort of instills, and I think Monopoly helped me to think this way, is, with real estate, you've got to buy as much real estate as you can for the right cash flow and keep it as long as you can. And the longer you've got a property, the more you make out of it.
The more money it makes you. Yeah.
Yes. Because in Monopoly, it's not longer, but it's, you put the houses on and the hotels on, you redevelop it. But in real life, it's just time that gives you that. So that
Absolutely.
they couldn't emulate time there. So that's how they did it. And
And it
they did it.
teaches you about time in the market with having property and time going by. Obviously, you're going around the board in Monopoly,
Exactly.
but that's to simulate time passing.
Exactly. And the thing is, the fact of it is, I mean, with properties, so many people out there trying to speculate and going, is it a good time? Is it a bad time? And they don't understand that the most important thing in property is time in the market. It's not just any
Absolutely.
time in the market. You want to have a property in the top 200. You want to have a property that's the right cash flow and a high growth area.
Yeah, 100%.
But let's talk about what happens when you put money in the bank. Because at the moment, we've got a lot of inflation. Inflation's on the news. It's all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And you know,
Everyone's talking about how much inflation has happened since COVID. I mean, you look at the cost of build materials have gone up by like 80%. Like the cost of petrol's gone up, the cost of food's gone up, everything has gone up. It seems like, anyway.
Yes, well, actually, not everything's gone up, and I'm going to explain what has and what hasn't.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
what's happened is there's a few reasons why we got actual inflation, right? One is probably we overclocked the stimulus payments and spent a lot of money as a government, right?
Right.
One of that was an accident, but the other thing was the supply chain was really the big thing. So
yeah, this is fascinating to get into the nitty gritty of where the inflation actually happened along the line and figure
yes,
out those pieces of the puzzle.
and the supply chain is a very big part of it. And what happened is the supply chains actually has fallen apart. It's come back now. It's fine. But during
Yeah.
COVID, that we weren't having all the shipping, and there was all these boats caught at port, and the supply chain just stopped. I mean, we saw that here in Australia. I mean, we couldn't even get toilet paper. Like, isn't that
Wow.
crazy?
Yeah, but
Right?
everyone was buying a lot of toilet paper too.
Yes,
So
and that's
that was increasing demand.
No. There was a more demand because people was staying at home and using toilet paper, because normally you go to work and use work toilet paper, which is a different product. So the challenge was we had plenty of work toilet paper, not enough home toilet paper.
Yeah, plenty of commercial toilet paper, but not the residential stuff.
That's right, exactly. So that's the supply chain thing. So the supply chain broke down, and that's part of the reason. But also, I mean, some of it's been inflicted on us after the US weaponized the financial system against Russia. And then Russia weaponized inflation, right, by cutting gas and oil supply to the West.
Wow.
So the war. So what's happened is COVID has disrupted the supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
The reserve banks all around the world have printed heaps of money, which causes inflation.
Yeah, I know the banks are printing money like crazy, right?
Yep. And then Russia invades Ukraine. So therefore, we've cut off the biggest breadbasket in Europe, and also all that oil, gas, and resources off. So therefore, it's pushed up commodities. So what's happened? It's like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
And so that's really disrupting the low inflation we've had, because we've had super low inflation for 20 years straight.
Well, I remember when they started reducing interest rates as well. It was like the lowest interest rates had been in ages.
The lowest interest rates in 5,000 years.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's ages.
Exactly.
It's a long time, right?
That's right. Exactly. So that's basically what's happening with inflation. Is it going to get better? Well, the supply chain's been fixed, right? We can still get goods.
And what exactly fixed the supply chain? Like, how did it fix itself, basically?
Okay. It stopped working because of COVID and people not wanting to catch COVID, and us everyone having big rules on who could come.
Oh, right. But now because of like countries are opening up borders and things like that, it's like back to business as usual.
Yep. That's right. Exactly. And someone said China, Taiwan is the next tension. And yes, it is, because, China's been shooting missiles across Taiwan. I wonder if they're going to stop there. But also, basically what's happened is US and the West are having a bit of a trade war with Russia and China.
Yeah, well, that's been happening for a few years now.
Yes, and the thing is, what's happened before this is the West, right? We were basically buying lots of commodity cheap stuff from China and the East, and East were producing it all and sending it through, and it was working like a beautiful partnership. But that's been
It
a
was
little
a
bit
bit of a
disrupted.
machine that was just churning for ages.
That's right. Exactly. So inflation is here to stay for a while longer.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, because the supply chain's been, so what happened was products and goods were inflated, but services stayed the same. They haven't actually changed.
Interesting.
Yes. So if you go get a haircut, it's the same price now as what it was last year or 2 years ago. But
Okay.
so all services are the same. You get a massage, a haircut, any service you look, it hasn't changed at all.
Yeah.
Right? It's just the goods that have changed.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, and obviously the prices of properties have gone up a lot too.
Yes, because they're a physical thing.
It's a hard asset.
The hard asset, and hard assets go up during inflation, and soft assets can crash. And what they're saying now is there's going to be a massive crash in the stock market.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been hearing that a lot.
I'm not an expert in the stocks, but there's always a big crash waiting around the corner with stocks, because that's what happens. You look at back 2008, a lot of people on the pension and ready to retire in Australia and America lost over 50% of all their retirement savings.
Yeah, totally. Well, if you ask me, the stock market is rigged. If you're not like doing like insider trading and you don't know what's going to happen, you can't really make money.
That's right. Exactly.
And it's a game for the big boys and the big companies that, make billions off of doing that sort of thing.
Yes, exactly. And I had lunch with Wolf of Wall Street, and
yes.
what was his name again? I forgot now.
I can't remember either.
Doesn't matter. We call him the Wolf of Wall Street. The Wolf. Anyway, I had lunch with the Wolf, and the Wolf was saying,
I know Leonardo DiCaprio played him in the movie.
Yeah, but he said it was rigged. Someone asked, do you have any predictions on where interest rates will peak? We actually did a whole episode on that. I think, was it last week or the week before?
Could have been the week before.
I need to find that episode, but there is one, right? So we've done that. We've talked
Jordan Belfort. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Look,
I was thinking of when we started talking about the stock market and all that. I was thinking of I love this show called Billions. I don't know if any of you guys have watched that show, and then I could just think of the people in that show. It's a really good show. But yes, so it was Jordan Belfort, and apparently he says that the show Billions was based off of his life.
Yes, that's right, exactly, and you can see what he does. Now, one thing. I mean, a lot of people said, "Why did you have lunch with that person?" Because of what he did and everything else like that.
Jordan Belfort, yeah.
Yeah, but the deal is, I mean, one, he admitted he was wrong, and he's trying to make good. And I think anyone that admits they're wrong and admits their mistake should get a second chance. I think the people that, do something bad and don't admit their mistake, they shouldn't get a second chance. But if you admit it and you're trying to do good, and also, I mean, he was the one that got caught. Everyone on Wall Street was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? He was just he was that right size where they wanted to teach him a lesson. Where the big boys, they can't do that to them because the whole economy will collapse. The Fannie Maes and all those other companies that collapsed, they were doing much worse. But because they're so big, they own the game. That's the thing. And that's the problem. That's the challenge of the stock market. But money. So how does money work? So there's a thing called fractional lending.
Yeah, I'm really curious to find out more about this, because when I first heard of this, it was like a light bulb moment. And I was like, wow, really? That's how banks work? And I found it so fascinating.
Yeah, so banks use fractional lending. So what happens is if you deposit $100 in the bank, they can lend out $1,000.
Yeah, so the ratio is 1 to 10.
1 to 10, exactly. So when you're putting money in the bank's getting your money and using it to make money, right?
Yeah, now, but for $1 that exists, essentially $9 don't really exist.
They're virtual. They're not even real. They're not even real.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's crazy, right?
Yes, but what happens is the reason fractional lending works is like this. So if 10 people deposit money, only 1 out of 10 is going to want their money back at any given time. So therefore it works. But
It sounds like a Ponzi scheme.
Well, funny enough, it is a Ponzi scheme. And what happened was back in the 1920s in America, there was more than 1 in 10 people that wanted their money out of the bank. And guess what happened?
The banks crashed.
It collapsed.
Yeah.
Yes. And there was people in the streets and trying to get their money out. And the people that got their money out first got that out, and everyone else collapsed. They lost everything.
Wow.
Right? So, banks are not the safest place to put your money. Now, this is the thing. During those 1920s, the people that had property, those properties didn't collapse. You know what I mean?
Because it's a hard asset.
A hard asset. Exactly.
Hello.
Exactly. So,
Seeing a pattern here.
I prefer to take my money and put it into hard assets. And then
I get anxiety if I have too much money in the bank. Like, I don't like it. I need to take it out and put it in property. Otherwise, I can't sleep at night.
Well, the fact of it is, over the last 20 years, if you left your money in the bank, it wasn't that bad. Right?
Well, even I look at the return I'm going to get putting it into property versus leaving it in the bank. In the bank, it's just shrinking. If I put it in property, it's keeping up with inflation and it's actually making me a lot better return.
Well, exactly. But basically, yes, true. But in the last 20 years, because it wasn't high inflation, you could leave your money in the bank and still take it out, and it hasn't shrunk too much. Right? Only a little bit. It was shrinking a little bit per year. But at the moment, people's money in the bank has got massive shrinkage. You know what I mean? It's really shrinking fast. And
it's like it's been in an ice bath. It's got shrinkage.
That's right. It's got shrinkage, exactly, which is not good. So therefore, that's part of the reason people got to wise up and really get what they can. Because what's going to happen is this is going to happen. And I predicted this back in 2009, where a lot of people, I said to them, get your money, get into a property, because otherwise you won't, that deposit's not going to work. Because back in 2009, you could have 50,000 deposit and buy a property, right?
Yeah.
And people with $50,000 in the bank, they were sitting around on the fence wondering they should go ahead or not go ahead. Now, can they invest in property? No.
Probably not. They're priced out of the market. George, I remember having this identical conversation with people before COVID, and they had a deposit of like $60,000 and their job obviously could allow them to get a loan at the time. But now, because lending's changed so much just within 3 years, they could have easily brought 2 investment properties 3 years ago, but now they can't buy anything.
They can't get anything.
And they should have done it while they had the opportunity. I'm like, hello, have you heard of the saying, make hay while the sun shines? You can do it now, but they just had fear holding them back, and then they never did anything.
And the problem is now they may never get back in the market unless they win the lottery or inherit some money or save a lot more than they've saved in the past, which is going to be hard. So that's the challenge, because the property market is ever expanding and moving forward. And if you miss that train, the thing is, it's like a train. It is really like a gravy train, because if you get on that train, then the hard part is, imagine there's a train going. It's called the property gravy train, right? And you're running towards it. And there's some people at the station sitting there going, nah, I won't get on this train. I'll wait for the next one, right? Which missed it. But some people are willing to run as hard as they can and catch that gravy train. That's what I did, right? Yeah. It wasn't easy getting my first property. When I got my first loan, they said, that's it. You tapped out, right? But I didn't give up. I just kept going more and trying to get more and more. You get on that gravy, if you work hard enough and run fast enough and jump on that gravy train, you're set for life, because you don't have to run anymore. There's other people at the station, they've missed the gravy train. They have to walk to the next station. They can't ride that train anymore. They've missed it. So there's going to be some people that can never catch the train again. They're going to have to walk for the rest of their lives. Other people are going to have to work a bit harder to catch the next train and keep going.
Absolutely. Just want to take a second to acknowledge the person that said, nice to see you back, Christina. I hope you're feeling better. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be back. I've been pulled out of my recovery a little bit early, but I don't mind, because I love doing these sessions and I love talking to you guys. And really Christina, happy to be here.
It's great to have you back. It really is. It's excellent. I want you to keep it on time so we don't go over, because
We got plenty of time because we started 10 minutes early. So
oh, you know what? On the top of this thing it said 6:05. That's when it starts, but it actually starts. I got it wrong anyway. Doesn't matter. So look, the money game is a mind game, correct? Now,
a lot of it does come down to mindset and your ability to get out of your comfort zone and, go for your dreams and go for your goals.
yep. Now, I want to go deep, guys. I'm going to go deep on money. I've got a few questions asking about China mortgage crisis and stuff like that. And thank you for asking the question, but I want to focus on the topic at hand, which is money today. And I want to go deep. I want to go really deep because I think that's where a lot of people get the value from. So going deep, I want to talk about your relationship with money, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because people's relationship with your money, the relationship you've got with money actually determines how much money you're going to have. And unfortunately, a lot of people have got a bad relationship with money. They don't think they deserve money. They don't have a good relationship with money. They're scared of money. They don't understand money. And what happens is, as soon as they get money, they blow it. And whenever they get an opportunity, they blow the opportunity. And
I know a lot of people that do that. That as soon as they get money, they have to blow it on something that will lose all their money. Like they can't stand having money within their reach. And I just think, wow, what a way to live.
Yep, exactly. What a way to live. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And the thing is, you get those people, I'm going to call them out right here, right now. You get these people that they say, well, money's not important to me. I don't care about money, right? Now, why they're saying that is not that they don't care about money. It's because they don't feel they can get it, so they'd rather pretend they don't want it.
Right. It's like a defense mechanism that they put up.
It's a defense mechanism. It's a bit like, you got a guy that's been single for a long time and is like, nah, I'm really fussy and I don't really care if I've got a girlfriend. I don't want one, right? But it's the one thing they want more than anything else.
Right.
But they're pretending they don't want it to make themselves feel better instead of facing reality, because a lot of people don't want to face reality. So getting comfortable with money takes getting uncomfortable first. That's the thing, right? Because, dealing with money, because it's such a topic that's full of so much emotion. You hear, money is evil, the root of all evil, and you hear about all this stuff. And what happens is, when we're young, we hear our parents maybe fight over money, and we get certain assumptions and ideas, and it affects us for the rest of our lives. Now, for you to attract money, you got to consciously and unconsciously accept it and really know that you deserve it. And part of that is loving yourself enough to know you deserve money.
Yeah, wow. So it goes right back to, I guess, how you feel about yourself even, and whether you deserve to have money and be wealthy.
Yeah, well, look, as you know, I've done neurolinguistic programming and other stuff like that. And basically, when it comes to the core of it, what happens is you have people that don't love themselves fully, and they get money and they blow it, right? And it's almost like they can't get rid of it fast enough. I know someone like that. Actually, I know a few people like that. And and what happens is they end up getting addicted to gambling or drugs or alcohol and things like that, and the money just flows through. And the thing is, the reason they do that is because they haven't got that relationship with themselves and the money. Because the relationship with yourself and with money is very important.
I think it also comes down to the fact that they've got no long-term thinking, and they're not really planning for like a brighter future. Because people that I know who have the mindset of an investor's mindset, like you and I, we're building a brighter future, and we're investing and doing what we need to make sure that there's going to be abundance and wealth, and keep growing that and multiplying that. But the people who don't do that, they seem to be very much sometimes like live in the moment people who they buy something big and flashy, like a brand new sports car, and they're like, oh, they feel better like instantly. It like obviously makes them happy for maybe like a week or so, but then they're right back to feeling like shit. And then they'll sell that car and then they'll lose like, 50,000 like overnight like that. And I'm like, what are they doing? Like, they're crazy. But there must be obviously deep down a reason why they're doing that and why they have those behaviors and they're acting like that. They're doing it to make themselves instantly sort of feel better.
Yes. And the thing is, it's materialism. See, people use materialistic objects, right? And, sports cars and Gucci watches and bags and all that, they give people a bit of a status hit and a bit of endorphin rush, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you feel bad, get yourself a Gucci bag, and suddenly you feel better. You feel like, wow, I'm important, right? Now, and I know a few guys, they buy Rolexes, they buy sports cars to make themselves feel better. But the problem is, you can't have material possessions, can't fix the hole in your heart, right? Just can't do that. It's very temporary. It's very temporary. And when people become materialistic, they, I think they just lose a bit of themselves. Now, there's a difference between buying nice things that you enjoy, that you can afford, and being materialistic. Completely different. You know what I mean? Because I've got a convertible Porsche. I've got a beautiful, $5 million house on the beach and all that sort of stuff, right?
And I've got a Gucci bag, but did I buy a shitload of properties first before I brought that bag? Absolutely.
That's right. Because if you're buying the item to make yourself feel better and you can't afford it, then that's really terrible. But if you got the money and you don't need it and you want it, there's nothing wrong with it, because you should
put it this way: if you're getting such a huge passive income from your investments, then you can afford those luxury items. If you're not getting any passive income from your investments, then you shouldn't be buying those luxury items.
That's
it's pretty
right.
simple.
And then you look at a lot of famous sports people and actors and singers end up being dead broke.
Yeah, it's crazy how many like really high earning individuals, celebrities, you name it, have gone bankrupt because they haven't been smart with their money.
Exactly.
I mean, look at Elvis, for example. I just watched the Elvis movie, and he ended up going broke because he didn't manage his money. He was just like blowing it on all these really expensive things.
And he was
there's quite a few people that do that.
Yeah, great movie. It was an excellent movie. I love real life movies. What time do we have to start the show? It's 6:20.
In about 15 minutes.
Okay, great. We've got plenty more time. So how do you get comfortable with money? Right? Well,
good question. And then how do you win the money game, more importantly?
Yeah. Okay, so there's a book, and if you haven't read it, you need to read it. And it's called The Richest Man in Babylon.
Okay, yes. I've heard you talk about this book many times, and considering I read a book a week, I haven't read it yet, or maybe I have read it and I've forgotten.
I've got it in my library, obviously. So a book, I'll give everyone a little bit of a sample of how it works. The Richest Man in Babylon talks about an old ancient prophecy back in Babylon about this guy who had 3 servants, and what he did with money and how he acted with money. And he talks, and through stories, he tells you the rules of money, and the rules are really powerful.
Right.
And I'll tell you rule number 1. What you earn is yours to keep. See how that changed your relationship with money? It's yours to keep. What you earn is yours to keep. It's a beautiful saying, right? Because, and what they say is then, it's rule number 2 is pay yourself first.
Yeah.
How do you pay yourself first? I'll tell you how you pay. And I've done this since I was 16 years old, because I read this when I was like 16 and I loved it. Very small book. And I heard about it because I was always into motivational speaking and listening to things and all that. So basically, what you do is when you get paid, you get 10% of that money and you put it in a separate account that you never touch. That is a great way to improve your relationship with money. Right? Because what happens is you're putting money away each week. And it doesn't matter how much you earn. When I was 16, I was earning like $60 a week. So I was putting $6. I was putting more than that, but minimum $6 away each week. Right? And the thing is, what happened was, I remember when I was 17, 18, I had a lot of money in the bank. And none of my friends had nothing. And they were like, wow, how did you become so rich? I mean, your parents, because their parents were a lot richer than mine. I went to a private school. My parents weren't, right? And they're going, how did you get money? What did you do? And I go, well, I've just been putting money away. And they were laughing at me. But I've done that my whole life. And
it's
now
fascinating that they didn't understand the concept of saving, and you were like going, well, yeah, I got this through saving.
Yeah, exactly. But it was a long-term saving because, you know what I mean? And the key is I just kept putting the money away and get used to it. And I built that habit, and knowing that my money was mine to keep, I just kept doing it my whole life, every job that I've had. You know, I started putting 10, then I started putting 15, then 20% away as I got more income because I didn't need it. You know what I mean? When you're earning $60 a week, 10% is a lot of money. When you're earning $4,000 a week, it's not.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all relative, right?
All relative, exactly. And that's what it's about. But these little, and then what they talk about is get your money and multiply it. Put it in something and invest in money. Because the other rule is you've got to invest your money, right?
Yeah.
So,
the rich invest their money. You're not going to get ahead in life if you don't invest. It's pretty simple. You cannot save yourself to wealth. Seriously.
You can't. But the first
there's no point even trying.
No. But before you invest, the first thing you got to do is save, right? It's step one. So you can't become financially free through saving, because saving is crawling. Because after that you need to walk, and after that you need to run. Because for step one, you've got to crawl, save money. Step two, you've got to walk, which is investing. Step three, you've got to run, which is passive money coming in every week. And step four, not only have you got passive money, but you've got capital growth fueling that. And what happens is that multiplies and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. See, Warren Buffett, right? Guess what age he started investing in?
Oh, I think he must have started pretty young, right? Maybe like 20?
He was 11.
Oh, wow. Even younger than 20.
Now, he didn't become a billionaire till he was 59. And he was nothing when he was 50.
Wow.
Right? And now everyone knows who he is. And what's happening there is a thing called compounding interest. He wasn't earning much more than the average return. You don't need to. What you need to do is just stick at it long enough and get the cash flow right, and you will make the money sooner or later.
So he became a billionaire in 9 years?
So what happens is when you invest is your investments double every 7 or 10 years.
Yeah.
It's called the rule of 7. So the rule of 7 means if you're getting 10% return, in 7 years, your investment doubles. So then 7 years again, it quadruples. 7 years again, it's 16. 7 years again, it's 32.
I'm seeing a pattern here. It's not rocket science. You just got to have the investments and get started, and then they'll keep making you more and more money.
So it's a bit like, what would you prefer to do? Get $1 million or 1 cent doubled for a month? Right?
Yeah, 1 cent.
And as you know, what's 1 cent doubled for a month? It's $1 billion. Because, first day you got 1 cent, second day you got 2, then you got 4, then you got 8, right? Then you got 16, and it looks tiny. But see, compounding interest is the same. So when you buy a property, right, people don't understand that, first 7 years to 10 years it doubles, but then it quadruples, then it goes 8 times.
That's right.
People are going like, how the hell did you do that? I had the properties long enough, right?
Yeah.
How did I make over $1 million in real estate last year? Because I've got enough properties that it's easy now.
Yeah.
I've done that when I started. It's about patience. And the point is, it's about compounding. And the way compounding interest works, it's a miracle. What's his name? Einstein said it was the 7th or 8th miracle in the world.
8th wonder of the world.
That's what he said. Yep. Miracle, wonder.
That's right.
Part of the picture. And it's true. It is. And if you don't have to understand it, but just use it, right?
Just do it.
Yeah.
Like he says, just do it.
So I used compounding interest without knowing anything about compounding, and it worked for me anyway. Now I understand that. I really understand compounding interest really well. I'm explaining to everyone here listening to us. But the fact of it is, you don't have to understand it, but use it because it's amazing. Because
use it to your advantage, guys. It's there for you to use. You might as well take advantage of it.
Compounding interest is one of those things that's going to keep giving.
It will serve you for the rest of your life.
Until you die. And then it's going to give to your kids.
The future generations as well.
Yes, that's right. Susan Carter said, George, how do I get onto your podcasts? If you type in, let me have a look. I'll look. You can keep talking. I'm going to have a look. Positive.
Yeah, that's George, a great question. I guess reach out and maybe through private message.
No, what you can do is you can just type in Google George Markowski podcast. That's it. And it will give you a link to our podcast. I'm all over the internet.
Cool. Excellent. Yep. Because we've got George Markowski Property Show on the podcast app. And
it's on Apple,
Spotify.
Google, Stitcher. It's everywhere. Spotify.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
It's a great question because I love listening to podcasts whenever I'm like flying or driving.
Well, actually, you might be listening to this as a podcast right now as we speak, right? Because we're doing a live, and if you're on the podcast, just Spotify now, listen to us. You're listening to a recording. And hello and welcome. But if you're on one of our podcasts, come along to Facebook, come along to Australian Property Investors by George Markowski and join us live.
Yeah, awesome. Great. I've been using compounding interest since I started work in 1986. Awesome, Susan.
Nice work, Susan. Very impressive. That's excellent.
Very smart.
And thank you, Susan and Chris Dimofsky for going in and adding their name, which is great, which is awesome. I love that.
Fantastic.
Right? Using the link. I'm going to put the link in again because it'd be great.
So just to summarize, because we're going to have to shoot off very shortly and go over to our private group of investors. If you could give your top 3 things on how to win at the money game, what would they be?
Number 1, what you earn is yours to keep.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that. So pay yourself first, put away 10%.
Yeah.
Right? The difference between wealthy investors and struggling investors, wealthy investors, they invest their money. So what that means is they don't spend their money. So spending your money is buying Gucci watch, getting a loan for a holiday, getting a loan for a car. Wealthy investors
doesn't like those Gucci watches.
They pay cash for their car and things like that unless you need it for work. But what you need to do is invest in yourself, invest in education, get a mentor, buy books, buy education. And if you invest in yourself, then that will pay massive dividends. The biggest investment is yourself. And then the third thing is
invest.
Number 2 is invest in yourself, and number 3 is invest in property.
Awesome.
And that's how you can have a good relationship with money. And when you're making money, it's a lot more fun and funny. You know, and this is the thing. When you've got no money, right, you think that having money and retiring is going to be the best thing. And I hate to break it to you, but once you do that, then guess what? You're going to be bored, and you're going to want meaning and purpose. Now, when I retired, I started having a good time. And a lot of people say, well, George, why do you do this? And the reason I'm doing this is because after I retired, I wanted to find purpose and meaning, and this is where my purpose and meaning is. And
awesome.
Then you can really find your purpose, which is important.
We have to land this plane, Georgie boy, because we've got a group to head on over to, guys.
Yeah, Christina, thank you so much for coming back and joining me. It's been great.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. And thank you so much for everyone who has joined us tonight and learned how to win at the money game in life.
That's right. And hope we're going to see you, not hopefully, we are going to see you next Thursday. I won't be here next Thursday because I'm going to be in Queensland. But Christina's going to be taking the show. Thank you.
I'll be taking the reins back, guys. So thank you for joining us. Have a great night. Bye-bye.